to the accidental subcommittee that was, I believe, last Thursday. The system is just simply overloaded with subcommittees, and so try as we might, we tried to cancel the subcommittee twice, and it canceled it in some spots, canceled it in others, and did not send that convenient little alert out to everyone. So kudos to the members of the lobby, Tony and Jake, who figured it out on the website. They saw it there. It was canceled on the website. It was not canceled via alert. So I apologize if you did not receive the alert, but we were not able to all three meet together at that time. So with respect to the members of the subcommittee, we wanted to make sure that everybody was here to hear public comment. So this is a bill on automatic license plate readers. We will just go ahead and start with public comment. I realize that there's probably a lot of you who would like to comment, so we're going to limit commentary to 2 minutes. If you have to speak beyond that, you can go ahead and email us. I'm going to try to figure out how to set an alarm on my phone. And then if you would just keep the pace moving, so if you want to speak, you can just come up to the next microphone. And so whoever would like to speak first should come up, and another person can come up over here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. No one wants to speak on it?
All right.
All right.
We good? There we go. So thank you very much for bringing this bill forward for the subcommittee. My name is with the American Civil Liberties Union of Iowa. We are here to express our support for this bill. We really appreciate you bringing it forward, and we really like where this is going. The ACLU has been engaged in advocacy around ALPRs since back in 2014, when for the most part, they were used by local governments correctly, limited them to helping stopping ongoing crimes, like Amber Alerts, like checking against hot lists, things like that. In the past couple of years, however, ALPRs have just exploded, both in our state and nationally. The fact that there are more cameras, that there are more law enforcement using them, there's new software and new technological capabilities like AI tools, that's taken our privacy and civil liberties concerns from back in 2014 and just put them on steroids. So the ALPRs of today that we're looking at are not the ones of even 2 or 3 years ago, let alone back in 2014. We agree that community safety is a critical goal, but 24/7 dragnet surveillance of Iowans should not be a precondition for that safety. So from our civil liberties perspective, there's a sort of core trifecta of protections for Iowans that are needed when it comes to ALPRs in order to shore up those privacy and Fourth Amendment rights. That includes requiring a warrant to access the data collected, limiting the amount of time the data is retained, and restricting data sharing, including the worldwide data sharing that's currently allowed to happen under the contracts that municipalities are signing with private third-party vendors. And I wanted to hone in on that point briefly because right now, any Iowan who is driving past an ALPR, their data is subject to being shared worldwide and already has been in some circumstances. This proliferation of data is an extraordinary breach of privacy. And by signing contracts with third-party vendors for this, municipalities are licensing Iowans' data to private third-party vendors that are sharing it around the world. And what that means is that Iowans are losing control over their data in ways that are unnecessary to advancing public safety goals. So for all of those reasons and more, we're really glad to see the language in the bill limiting that data sharing and requiring some more local oversight over ALPR usage, and why we're really grateful to the legislature for stepping in and establishing some what we see much needed guardrails on the use of this incredibly powerful system.
Thank you.
Tony Phillips with the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association. I have shared some amendment language with you all that has been socialized with various law enforcement groups in an effort to recognize what you're trying to do with this bill and make sure things work. You know, we recognize that these systems need to be used responsibly and have clear guardrails. So the amendment is intended to address those concerns. First, it requires local approval and written policy before plate readers can be used. That's going to ensure transparency, accountability, and local control. Second, it requires audit trails, case numbers, and documentation for searches and hot list entries. These are common sense protections that are gonna reinforce the proper use of the technology. Third, it prevents misuse by prohibiting, these are some of the things I think you all identified, but prohibiting facial recognition features, targeting of places of worship, and limiting data sharing with third parties. And lastly, and I think this is important, something that wasn't in the original language, is it creates criminal penalties for improper use of the system. There should be accountability in these scenarios. People need to use these tools the right way. Now, I will say in my unsolicited task of wrangling language here, the language does not have some language from Mr. Strike to make sure that folks like Reed Elfser could still share the information between agencies and handle all of that the way they need to. I think we can be supportive of that, and my apologies for not having that in the language I shared with you today. But we want to make sure that this is an effective public safety tool. You'll hear from others about how they actually use this in the field, but also have those guardrails in place so that it's responsibly used. So appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Doug Strike here on behalf of Reed Elsevier, Nexus. Appreciate the comments from my colleague, Mr. Phillips. Also apologize for the breakdown in communication, but we have provided the language to you now. Reed Elsevier is a data backbone for many items, including law enforcement, and we have sides of our information that are excluded to solely law enforcement and also the insurance industry, not publicly shared information, World Wide Web, everybody gets to see things. Those are limited access to specific individuals. The way the bill is currently drafted, we would not be able to be the sharing mechanism for law enforcement to communicate with one another and share this information. So the language that we provided would allow us to continue to share information with law enforcement. Happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Representatives. Lisa Davis Cook with the Iowa Association for Justice. We are registered in favor of this bill. I'll just give some kind of general comments that our members have in looking at it. We have seen a proliferation of these license plate readers, not only in Iowa, but as Becca said, across the country. We believe there should be some guardrails around them. I have not seen the amendment from Mr. Phillips, but I know that our folks were concerned about, even though there were penalties, how would they be enforced, and would there be anything really done if these guardrails were violated. So the fact that there are some more penalties being discussed, we would be supportive of, and I'm happy to take any questions back to our members if you have them.
Thank you.
Hi, Susan Fenton, Iowa Department of Transportation. The only thing we'd like to point out is if the state were to use the LPRs at way stations or rest areas, the concern is would we have to go through the local authority to get a permit, and that would be nearly impossible. So just something to think about as you move this bill forward. Thank you.
Why would that be nearly impossible?
Because in some instances, there are rest areas that are between cities and counties, so we have to get a permit from a county and a city. And it would just be not feasible, we believe. So we're just looking for a carve out, or just for you to take that into consideration since it's on the state system.
I disagree that the state should have a carve out. If everybody else has to abide by these rules, should this pass and be signed into law. But we will take that into consideration, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you.
Greg Scholten with the Altoona Police Department. A little bit on our background, we're probably the most built out investigative intelligence-wise in the state of Iowa. We do offer that, if anybody wants to come in and see it, some of our concerns that we have isn't the guardrails. A lot of what we're talking about here already is regulated at the federal, state, and constitutionally. When you bring these systems into a law enforcement agency, they fall under CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information Sharing, has its own rules. So if you misuse that, that's a federal offense. You can be disciplined, you can be prosecuted, all those. So a lot of the rules, we're not really pushing back on any of it. We're just codifying what's already codified in there. So our biggest issue that we have is retention periods. So I'm going to take time to explain, just give you 2 scenarios that we've had that we would not have been able to apprehend these individuals with these retention periods. A juvenile female, autistic, a person met her on a social media site, came to our town, picked her up, took her to another area and sexually assaulted her. It took 3 weeks before she was willing to come forward and she told a counselor. That's when we get the look. I want to point something out on these systems and to kind of use my phone. This is what we see. We're not looking at any one of their dots on the map. So initially when we get a complaint, I'm looking at a blank screen. The next step is we're going to get something like this, just my screensaver. I don't need a search warrant to see somebody's outside of their phone. It tells me nothing about you on here. If I want to get into this phone, we already have to get warrants, subpoenas, and go those routes once an investigation takes us to that part. So initially on the warrants, I questioned, who is that warrant even being served on and what is that warrant for? Initially, there is a rule where warrants and subpoenas come in, but in the first 24 hours, I don't even know who that warrant, a judge signs it, who does it even go to? There's nothing there, nothing that we know. I can't give you any information on that because I don't know anything at that time. We work our way through an investigation. ALPRs are also a small part of investigative technology, not the only part of investigative technology, if that makes sense. So yep, there should be guardrails. Those guardrails are in place. Go back to this young lady. She was able to take one of my detectives and show me the route that this thing, put her in a car and she was able to show us the route. And she told us a silver, gray, white, small SUV. That's all we had to go on. We're able to not just use ALPR, but other technologies, and we were able to identify a car. Backtracking that, getting warrants, getting subpoenas, we were able to identify that individual. We were also able to show him in town without her in the car and her in the car. I apologize. Am I done? Do you want to cut me off?
Yeah, and
Okay.
actually, I started your timer way late, so you went way longer than anyone
Yeah,
else. So
sorry.
I appreciate what you said. I think maybe you should take a look at the amendment, because I think a lot of your concerns will be addressed there. But I do appreciate what you said, maybe we can talk later about the amendment.
All right.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Noah Bezos. I'm a legislative strategist at the Institute for Justice. We are a libertarian-oriented public interest law firm, and we've been defending the constitutional rights of ordinary people from abuses of government power for more than 30 years. This bill constitutes a considerable improvement over current state law, and it thoughtfully balances constitutional protections while giving law enforcement flexibility in exigent circumstances. We're very grateful for Chair Jones for pushing this legislation forward. Automatic license plate readers without warrant requirements pose a significant threat to our Fourth Amendment rights, given that those conducting searches do not have to establish probable cause, do not have to swear to facts in a warrant application, or receive approval from a neutral judge before conducting a search. Unlike red light cameras or speed cameras that are triggered by specific violations, the continuous collection and storage of data on persons not suspected of a crime allows government officials unprecedented access into the lives and personal affairs of law-abiding citizens not suspected of a crime. Carpenter versus United States has already affirmed that people have a reasonable expectation of privacy in their public movements over time. Moreover, I'm from Illinois. In Evanston, you can get a peek into how this looks. The city of Evanston took down some of their flock cameras. The flock went against the city's wishes, put them back up. Reason being because the actual value proposition of a flock camera is a nationwide database that can be accessible anywhere you have a camera, okay? The bill addresses situations where human life is in imminent danger and time is of the essence. This bill allows for Amber Alerts, human trafficking, while it allows officers to work within those circumstances. Okay, so this particular bill, it allows officers to work in exigent circumstances where human life is at immediate danger, but also protects the constitutional rights of individuals. We're very, very grateful for Chair Jones' foresight and fortitude to defend the rights of ordinary people. I'll close on a personal note. My brother is a law enforcement officer. I'm proud of him every day. And so I understand that law enforcement professionals are motivated to protect innocent lives. By passing the constitutional safeguards within this bill, that's exactly what they'll be doing. Thank you.
Dustin Rush with Americans for Prosperity. I'll keep my comments brief. We believe that this will find the right balance. This bill will find the right balance for protecting public safety while defending privacy, due process, and limited government. So we're in favor of this bill. We appreciate it and look forward to the continued conversation around the amendment.
Thank you.
Good morning, Representatives. Christopher Rance. I happen to represent Flock. We're supportive of the language that Mr. Phillips and law enforcement is putting together. We believe there is a balance to be had. We welcome guardrails around how data is used. We believe under our current T's and C's that protection is in place, but we certainly have no problem with it being put in statutorily. And therefore, the amendment that Mr. Phillips and the Sheriff's and the Police Department are putting forward is something that we can be supportive of.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the bill? Members?
First, I want to thank, I know you guys have been working on this for a long time, or several months now, so thank you for your work on this. For the ACLU, and I forget, I'm sorry, the gentleman.
Institute for Justice.
Do you guys, have you had access to the amendment? That they have not, okay. Okay. I'm just curious when you do, to put your input on that and see if that is still consistent with things or not. So that's kind of my question.
Cynthia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question about the amendment. It says a person should not use an automatic registration plate reader in a local authority. Is local municipal? Is it county? What would a local authority be?
It should be in all of those.
Okay. So if the Dallas County Sheriff's Department wanted to use this, they would need a approval by the Board of Supervisors of Dallas County?
That's how it would.
Okay. Same with a city or city council?
Yeah, someone's at
Okay, I appreciate that. For the folks with the ACLU, you had mentioned in your testimony that this data is being shared worldwide. Can you expound on that?
So when local authorities are signing contracts with these private third-party vendors, and, I'll pick out some language specifically from flock contracts, those are the majority of contracts in the state that are being signed or have been signed. There's language in there that grants flock and we can send you the exact language, but a license irrevocable worldwide license to use the data that's generated by the customer. And so we've already seen, for example, in the Philippines, where this data was shared with gig workers who were training the AI algorithm on what to recognize in the images that were being collected. And certainly in the Philippines, they're not subject to the same, say, local requirements that some Iowa police agencies have that restrict the use and access to, et cetera, their local data. So that's what we mean when we are referencing the worldwide sharing. But we can get you the exact language that we're seeing in the contracts as well.
Okay, if you can step up to your table. Again.
I apologize, we should have some chairs without arms for you guys.
I appreciate you being here, I appreciate all law enforcement, and I understand the want and the need to use tools like this to keep Iowans safer. What is the balance, do you believe, is there between security and privacy when it comes to ALPRs? Do you understand some of the concerns about
I
the
do.
surveillance society that we find ourselves more and more in when we just see cameras everywhere?
I do. I mean, the whole point is technology's moving faster than trust, and it's creating an unstable environment. So what we're doing today is trying to bring some stability back to an unstable, untrusting environment, if that makes sense. I can't speak outside of Altoona, but the guardrails we talk about today already exist internally in my department. Our companies, we sign contracts, can't share that. That's CGIS. You're not allowed to share it with third-party vendors. You can only access my systems with an event or a case number. We don't retain data for the purposes of retaining data. First of all, we can't afford it. So we gotta get rid of it as quick as we can get rid of it. It's investigatory. For me, I get befuddled when we use the word surveillance. All I see are dots on a map. I don't see people, I don't see cars, I don't see anything like that. It's just dots on a map. I get a notification, either a criminal with a warrant came into my community or somebody reported a crime. That's the time then we get an event number or a case number and we access these systems. And there are more intel analysts that access them, intel detectives, than the general officer out working the street. They're not accessing this stuff.
So you see a dot,
Yep.
you get hit, you pull it up, you can see the car, the license plate. What's the accuracy
Not
rate?
always.
What's the accuracy rate on those?
Well, it's 100% if you go down the investigating rule. So I would say that. The one thing these things do is they take human error out of it. I'm not guessing on it, but it's not necessarily I see a license plate. It's just a unique identity. I may not see a license plate at all. You just may have a sticker in your back window, which separates your car from all same makes and models.
Can you make out people driving? Can you make out faces? Is there facial recognition technology?
Not on ALPR. ALPR takes a real license plate. They specifically don't take a picture of somebody driving a car. So we get the car, we get, maybe if we're lucky, we get the rear license plate off of it. No. Other technology, like just simple traffic cameras, is where we can see somebody in a car.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for what you do.
Representative Scholten, if you do have a follow-up for the chief?
No, not for the chief.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chief.
Go ahead.
I do have a question for Flock.
I knew I should stay upstairs.
So, I guess my question is, I'm sure with contracts and everything, there's limitations on what you're capable of doing, but what is really stopping you from selling, like, data to another entity?
Our contracts are with the communities, we say we're not gonna sell it to anybody else. I'm happy to provide you our most recent terms and conditions to all three of you to see. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, or there's a lot of stuff on the internet that purports to be truth. I mean, to Representative Young's question, I mean, what we ultimately are doing is capturing the rear of a vehicle, the license plate, the model of the car, the color of the car. You can't see a person's face. I mean, that's not the intent, because you don't necessarily know who's driving the car. We're not sharing data outside of who we contract with. So if we contract with City of Sioux City, and the City of Sergeant Bluff, which we do, we contract with 83 different law enforcement agencies in the state of Iowa. They own the data. What they choose to do with the data, that is their decision. and how they choose to use that, but we don't share with anyone else. Do we have to train some AI? Yes, we do, because new vehicles coming on the market all the time. Is that a Cybertruck? Is that a rigging truck? What's that new vehicle? So you wanted to know what kind of vehicle it is. So that takes a little bit of AI training that we do, but we're not sharing data around the world.
And if there was a breach of data, like, what's the penalty on you guys?
I'm gonna make an assumption that it's in our terms and conditions or something, but I don't know that for a fact, so let me get back to you with the answer to that. But to the gentleman's point earlier, I mean, we have to protect that data, right? It's in the cloud, it's under a CGIS agreement, I mean, it is not just stored on somebody's laptop somewhere.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, for the public, and there's been many calls to ban these cameras. This legislation does not do that. If that's gonna happen, it's gonna be by citizens of the county or municipality who go to their city council or their board of supervisors and take it up there at that level. But we wanted to ensure that law enforcement has the tools that they need to do their job to keep our communities and families safe. At the same time, put some guardrails to protect our privacy in what we are seeing more and more as just a surveillance society. I appreciate you bringing this to the committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Young. Are the members willing to sign off? Okay, thank you. And I'll just briefly comment here. We've got the room for about 2 more minutes. And I apologize if those of you who are coming in or here for the next meeting. We'll wrap up here quickly. I'm also going to sign off on the bill. In my other life job, I work with law cameras, and I represent a community who uses them extensively. And we are able to solve a lot of crimes, but we are also able to better protect our community. I appreciate everything that law cameras do to make sure that we are able to find kids and Amber Alerts quickly. In researching ALPRs over the last several months, the stories that I've heard, this hits really hard, especially when it comes to even trafficking, when it comes to drugs, when it comes to crime. These are tools for our law enforcement that we need at a time when we have a terrible time recruiting and retaining law enforcement in our communities. This just gives them one more tool in their toolbox to be successful. But at the same time, I realize that we need to put some guardrails on these. So let's do that. Let's put some rails up, and let's move this bill forward. Thank you all.